Call the meeting to order. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion?
Make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
Well, I would second that, but I want to propose a change to the agenda.
Okay.
When I looked at the minutes of the December 12th meeting, I was reminded that I told people that the discussion about the Hale, the extension that they were requesting would be discussed January 9th. I mean, I think the conversation talked about at the next meeting, and I said, well, the next meeting will be January 9th. So, from my perspective, the people who paid attention to that, either by when they were at the meeting or taking a look at the draft minutes, might not anticipate that we would be putting it on our agenda for December 28th. So I'd like to move that we strike that and consider it at our next meeting, which is January 9th.
So should I agree with you. So should I amend my motion or just second your motion?
Do it either way, guys.
I'll second your motion.
Yeah, my motion will be an amendment to your motion.
Okay.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All right.
Okay, Bob?
I'm abstaining.
Okay.
Okay.
You're recusing yourself, right?
Right.
Right. Okay. Moving on to approval of the minutes, 11/14/22 and 12/12/22.
Well, did Mary Lee recuse herself from the whole agenda thing?
No, just
No.
from the vote.
Just the vote on that, part of it, that's all, Allison.
So there was one vote on the motion and the amendment, right?
We didn't actually vote separately.
That's correct. That we should have done that.
So want to back it up again?
Yes.
Okay. Let's try again. Here we go.
So I would suggest, Mr. Chairman, that you call the question on the amendment.
Okay.
Well,
Is that the right way to do it, Joe?
yes, I guess so.
Okay, we'll call the question on the amendment. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed?
Aye.
Then Mary Lee, that's what you abstained?
Abstain.
Okay, Mary Lee recuses herself, abstains on that. Okay, does that take care of that part, the agenda?
Then we have to vote on the agenda.
The amended.
The amended agenda, okay, is there a motion on that?
There was. That was my original motion.
And we had a second,
Yes.
and a second. Any
I second.
discussion?
I got discussion on it.
Go ahead, Bob.
Okay, at the 12/12 meeting, it was stated that this meeting would be for the budget and warrants only. Bob, maybe it didn't say only, but it was supposed to be for the budget and warrants, not any of this other stuff. I have second thoughts about that because we should have met Monday the 26th for the regular select board meeting, so I don't know how everybody else feels about it, but not that there's a whole bunch of stuff on here, but originally there was until you just took one off, but I don't know. How's everybody else feel about it?
Well, the only other item that appears on there is the purchase of the new generator for the wastewater treatment plant, which is, I gather, rather important.
Yeah, okay.
You have a problem with that, Bob?
No, I don't have a problem with that, no.
Okay. Anyone else have a problem with the question of the generator?
No.
Okay, all righty. So, where are we now?
Call the question, Mr. Chairman.
Might be ready
Call
to-
the question.
Call the question. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
I abstain.
You abstain, okay. Approval of the minutes. First one is 11/14/22.
Make a motion, we approve the minutes for Monday, November 14th, 2022 as presented.
Is there a second?
I would second that motion.
Okay. Discussion.
I got a couple changes that I found
Okay.
on page 2, down where Janet Curry, it said that the DRB meeting is 4 and 2 were against and 4 were for. There's only 5 on the board.
That's correct.
And then down further, she said, the pros and cons 4-6 individuals, and it should be 46, not 4-6.
Right,
It should
okay.
be 46.
Okay, anything else, Mary Lee?
I think there was one more. No.
No? Okay.
I'm good.
You're good? Joe?
Just one very small item on page 2, in the middle paragraph that starts, Zach Hale stated, second line, vice versa is spelled VISE-VERSA. It should be VICE, no hyphen, VERSA.
Okay. That take care of the corrections?
From my point of view.
Okay, all those in favor of approving the minutes as corrected for November 14th indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Moving on
Make a
to
motion.
December,
Make a motion, we approve the minutes for Monday, December 12th, 2022.
is there a second?
All
All
I
right,
will.
okay,
I'm trying to vote early.
okay. Any discussion, corrections on this one?
On page 4,
Okay,
it's halfway down, it starts, Mike Jones stated, he presented a draft. Down below, it says, it was suggested the meeting was be held. I made that suggestion. That's the only thing
okay, Dick?
That's it.
Where was that correction, Mary Lee?
it is, let's see,
Page 4.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the 6th paragraph down on page 4, and it's the last line. It says a suggestion. It was suggested, and I'm just saying, I was the one that suggested it.
Okay, Allison, you got that?
Yes.
Okay. Got it, Mary Lee, for,
That's it.
okay, Dick?
I'm good.
Joe?
I'm going to abstain on this because I haven't reviewed these fully.
Okay. All those in favor with corrections indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? You say aye, Bob?
I did.
Okay. Joe?
I abstain.
You abstain, okay. Motion passes 4 with 1 abstention. Moving on to citizens' comments and/or concerns not on the agenda. Is there anyone who wishes to address the board? Items not on the agenda. Yes, Sue?
Thank you. I understand that your meeting tonight is a special meeting just to address the budget, correct?
Pretty much so.
Okay, because I had gone to the site and for some reason thought you were doing policies and, warrants. But, I did contact each of you, each of the select board, except for you, Jim, because I didn't have an email, but I understand that Mike made a copy of my email for you.
He did, I read it today.
Okay, and I'm just, I've been attending the school board meetings, and, which have been very informative, and my understanding from those meetings, and nobody could speak better to it than the members of the school board. So I'm not speaking on behalf, just as somebody, as a citizen that attended, that in our schools, and that includes Castleton children, pre-K through 12, I think we have a substantial need, mental health need in our schools. that right now is being addressed by our schools because of staff shortages for other service providers, okay? And when I saw the fact that you're going to address policy, and Joe corrected me, and thank you, Joe, I thought social services was going to be addressed. I don't expect any answer tonight, but I am curious from the select board, you know, how it is that you assess the overall health of your community, okay? What are the health needs of your community? And I'm suspecting you might get it from other service givers, okay? So, given the fact that I think our schools are sharing that there is a substantial need, okay, and a lot of money being directed to that need, which I certainly support, I'm just wondering what our town government, how they arrive at what is the overall need health-wise in our community in respect to the residents in the community, and how you arrive at that, because I do know we have a line in social service, don't we?
We do.
Budget.
We have a number of them.
Okay, so I'm not expecting it tonight because I know you have a lot of business to do, but I'm hoping in a future meeting that I might be able to hear from the select board about how you go about putting that information together. And that's it. I thank you.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions for Sue? Mike?
Yeah,
So Allison, that was Sue DeCarlos.
Sue DeCarlos.
thank you. Thank you.
Any other things? Anyone else who wishes to address the board? Items not on the agenda. Silence is golden. Okay, with that said, we will move on to select board budget discussion. Mike, do you have an update for us?
I don't have an actual update to give you. You have the original one I gave you, and I'm just prepared to reply to any questions you have about particular departments or specific lines. I put together my own second or first amendment of where I think there possibly could be some cuts and the associated risks that come with it, but other than that, it's back to that base budget that I had provided to you last meeting.
And at last meeting, the bottom line was an increase of 13.9%, is that correct?
Correct, and the dollar amount should be $486,940.
Okay, thank you. Questions for Mike?
Mike, that's the dollar amount of the increase?
That is correct.
That's correct.
Thank you.
It's actually 13.8%, not that that's really a big deal, but it's actually 13.8%, not 13.9, not that that's a real big deal, but.
No, it isn't. That's just walking around change.
Can we hear some of Mike's suggestions?
Oh, certainly. Your suggestions, Mike. Recommendations.
Backwards. Well, here, one suggestion that, that the board's done this in the past, so it's certainly not new practice. Highway carryover money is, by statute, highway money carries over fiscal years. And the older statute said that we kind of had to stay separate from the general fund. And so if there was, say, $45,000 in sidewalks that wasn't used, it got carried over into that same category, so it carried over into sidewalks. And it could be paving, it could be salt and sand, etc. So in the past, when we ran into some budget shortfalls or woes, the select board had some leverage there to make that up. We've used it for paving. We've used it to offset crushing. We've used it to purchase a tractor. So it's been used for a lot of different reasons. we didn't pave last year. I chose not to pave last year because the prices of liquid asphalt went up substantially, so we were gonna get less bang for our buck. So that $170,000 carried over into the highway carryover. So we didn't pave anything, so no roads got paved, the money just got carried over. So the board could choose to use the highway carryover and kind of get rid of the paving out of this year's budget, so that you could reduce the $209,000 to zero. You could use the 170 plus the unassigned and get it out of the budget. Yeah.
Could you repeat that, please?
Sure.
Not the whole thing, just the last sentence, where you started talking about numbers.
Okay. So in the budget, I had $209,000. That's what we put in every year until recently, where I've recommended different figures, and one being $170,000. So what I've asked the select board to do during the budget process was to utilize the delta between 170,000 and 209, which would be 39,000, out of the highway carryover. And you could pick that up out of the paving, and if there wasn't money in paving, you could pick it up out of the unassigned. It's kind of a, I want to say rainy day fund, because that's really not what it is, but it's a carryover that you can use to offset some cost. And we've done it in the past. If you look back in history on the budget worksheets, it's been done in the past. What I'm saying is, if we zero the $209,000 out that's in the budget line for reclaim and paving, and use the highway carryover, it reduces this operating budget by $209,000. So there's a significant reduction out of the almost $487,000. The risk is, if you take it out this year and then next year we have to put it back in, you're going to spike the budget next year. So whether you do it this year or next year, somewhere along the line, when you run out of highway carryover, which would be now if you use it, you're going to have to put it back in the budget. So when you're worrying about the bottom line or percentages, you're going to have to put it back in somewhere to continue paving roads. So there's the risk. I just want to let you know, here's an option, here's some risk. You could do the same for salt and sand purchases. You could do the same for anything in highway. We've done it to, like I said, we bought a tractor with it. We used, the money from the unassigned highway carryover to purchase that New Holland mower tractor. So we didn't pass, because the taxpayers already paid for that. That's paid for, so we didn't pass it on into a future budget, is kind of some of the mentality on it. But there's risk. That's all I just want to make people aware of. It's not just hey, we didn't use it, we took it out of the budget, so we're free and clear, because it means we didn't pave another year. We skipped last year, then we'd have to use the carryover for this year, so we're still behind a year. And we'd have to put it in the next year's budget to be able to have money for paving in there. So it's going to spike the budget no matter what year you pick it in. We kick the can down the road or not. It's up to you to decide how you want to do that, but that's the risk. Option and risk.
Other questions for Mike?
Yeah.
Dick, go ahead, sure.
Well, we didn't pave in the past fiscal year, right?
Correct.
So we're already a year behind in our 10-year cycle of paving roads every 10 years?
Correct.
So if we take that $209,000 out of the budget and we only pave 1 year's worth of roads this coming year instead of 2 years to catch up, aren't we going to be a year behind?
That's what I'm saying. We're still going to be a year
And then
behind.
there's going to be roads that are going to be in rough shape and starting to fall apart?
Well, we already have some, and sometimes we sit here and we pray to the V-Trans gods that we're gonna get a Class 2 paving grant. Well, I've been here 4.5 years. We've got it once, so that's usually up to $200,000 minus our match. But that's not a given. It's great when we get it because it gives us the Class 2 roads like South Street, East Hubbardton Road, Blissville Road, Creek Road, those West Castleton, those are all Class 2, South Street, North Road. So we can use it on those roads, but there's no guarantees we're gonna get it.
I went through this budget several times in the last couple of weeks, looking for fluff and things that you would be willing to negotiate away, and I haven't found much.
I'm with you.
I really don't see where it would be appropriate to take a year out of the paving budget. I don't think that's wise. That's only my opinion. So I guess we should think about what, and I know you don't agree with me, Jim. And I think we.
Why wouldn't I agree with you, Dick? I've always been in
I think
favor
it's-
of paving roads.
Oh, I agree with that, but you also would, I understand why you have an issue with a 13.8% increase.
I certainly do.
And I get that, but I went through this, like I said, and I didn't find a lot of fluff here, and I didn't find places where we can.
Find it?
The only thing I saw that we should discuss is the $83,000 or $84,000 to fund the expenses at the village school, which is 25% of this increase in, well, 20% of this increase in round numbers. So that's my stand on this.
What page are you on? What page is
Well, I'm looking at the bottom line right now, but when,
Yeah.
it was a
What
couple
page is the
pages
highway?
back, it was under general government buildings. I don't recall exactly what page it was on, help me out.
It was in yellow, I'm looking for it right now. I forgot what page myself.
And I don't recall if I have the exact number, it was 83 or 84,000, something like that.
Yeah, 84.
Mike, or, excuse me, Jim,
It's on page 7.
sorry.
Yep.
I'm looking for the hand raising signal, but I wondered if I could just say something about the library budget. Can you hear me? This
Okay,
is Nancy Mark.
I know you're going to be brief.
I know you know that I will be brief.
Okay.
I think, I'm not sure if this was able to be corrected before you were looking at your budget documents, but the library shows, the last I looked at it, a $5,322 deficit. I had sent Mike our revenue, updated revenue, because I wanted to confirm that with the full board before I submitted it. We had a meeting, and we have submitted and plan on revenue that will definitely make us produce a balanced budget. So there will not be that deficit, and I wanted you to know that.
Thank you very much. Other questions for Mike? Dick, did you have anything else you wanted to
Well,
add?
no, the total for the village school is on the bottom of page 5, the very bottom of page 5, and the number is $83,571.
I got a circle here, but I don't know what it's at. Don't like this little writing for these old eyes.
I know.
What'd you say for number?
83,000,
83,571 is the budget for the village school, which is an increase from 0, so.
and is it fair to say that that's the estimated cost to operate that building?
Correct.
Okay.
Am I missing on that? Is my eyes just not going across? That there's nothing for phone and internet?
There's nothing in the building right now. We haven't put anything in there, so
But we are gonna have to, aren't we?
I've held off because I don't know the fate of the building, so I kind of was waiting to kind of see what happens before I do that.
But,
Because we're going to commit to a 3-year contract when we do it.
okay, don't we have Bo there now? Doesn't she need that stuff?
Bo has a cell phone and has a hotspot that she's running, that Bo's running off for internet.
Okay, so that's not something that needed right this minute.
Correct.
We have a workaround for that right now, right?
Bo's working fine, based on, Bo has a town cell phone and uses that cell phone as a hotspot to get to the internet, and it's working fine at this point.
Adequate at this point?
No problems. Yeah, she got 5G down there, so.
Will that be adequate 6 months from now?
For one individual,
Yeah.
if all of a sudden that building is used for things like town meetings, that would not be adequate.
So then we would have to put it in for whatever else might happen.
Just a wild guess, how big of an expense would that be? Nothing I'll hold you to, but I don't have an estimate, so if you could at least come up with a wild guess, it would be helpful.
Look at the eyes.
Approximately seven, probably almost $800 probably.
A year?
Because $14.95 for internet, just to have a Microsoft, then we got the internet charges and the phone charges. So it's somewhere, I think somewhere around that, would be a good guess. But I'd ask that you don't.
I'm not
quote me on
horrible,
that
but it all adds up. Not horrible, but it does all add up.
So what is the-
That it, Dick? For you?
That's all I got for now.
Okay. Joe?
Well, as Mike had requested at our last meeting, I called him after I had a chance to review this and expressed my shock at the bottom line increase. And I understand that one question for the board is whether to treat the village school expenses as a separate item. And I believe I would be in favor of that, pending whatever discussion we have on that topic. But that still leaves us with a deficit, an increase in the nature of, what is it, 10%?
If you zero out the village
Yeah.
school stuff,
Well, last year was 3.5, so
I can tell you can just take it out, I'll zero these out.
What's the, do one of you fellows have the number there? If you took the village school out?
3,571, I think, is the village school cost.
So you'd subtract the 83,571 from the 489? Is that where we were?
it'll get you a little under 10%.
486,940.
Okay.
Essentially, 10%, 9.8%.
It would get you a little bit under 10%,
This-
9.8 or 9.9, that's doing the math.
I just took it out, and it reduces the debt, that to 403, 369 at 11.4% by zeroing out all of the village school stuff.
I'm behind the barn at this point. How can you zero that out? It's there.
It would be a separate item. It'd be a separate line item for the voters to approve or disapprove.
Oh, okay, so it's not really lowering it if they approve it.
That's correct.
It's only lowering it if they, okay.
That's correct.
Couldn't quite get that.
It's a way to clarify why the budget may be increasing as much as it could be. I haven't been on this board for as long as some of you, and I don't ever remember a budget being put forth that had that kind of a year-to-year increase. Am I mistaken?
You're not, you're correct, Joe.
You are not mistaken.
Yeah. No, I know this has been an unusual year or two that has increased costs for everything, from fuel and materials, that Mike mentioned, asphalt. So I think it would be, I would hope that the citizens would expect that we could not necessarily provide the same kind of budget constraints that we have in the past. But I think 11% or whatever it would be is too much of an increase. And I also think that stealing from Peter to pay Paul is not advisable. I think deferring some of these expenses that have been funded through the highway carryover is unwise. I mean, we need those funds because we need them, because these are things that you can't defer much at all, certainly not for 2 consecutive years.
Okay. Anything else?
I hate to even ask this, but I will. Can ARPA funds be used to lower this budget at all?
As long as it's a normal provision of the municipal government, their actions, yes. It's not supposed to be used to lower, like pay wages and benefits and stuff like that, but building a salt and sand shed could be a normal provision of government. Maintaining roads is a normal provision of government services.
Is that something that we should consider?
We can consider anything.
I'm trying to get a consensus because it seems to me that's just such a huge jump that if there's anything that we can do without really cutting services, but paying for it through ARPA or whatever other ways we could.
Mike?
Well, I have a recommendation or suggestion, I guess. Those things that are one-offs, like, there's not gonna be, like, paving's reoccurring, but there's things in there that, like sandblasting of a truck to maintain our trucks in the highway budget. If those are one-offs, you could certainly add up some of that stuff and start reducing that amount that's in this bottom line of this. So that it doesn't, it's not gonna get passed on to next year's budget. Because once it's one and done kind of thing. It might be one and done now, but it also gives us time to say, is this something that we should be doing normally? And we start putting it incrementally back into a budget so that over time we pay for it, like sandblasting or those, bit larger costs. That's how we could, the select board could approach this in a strategic manner and make sure that we're funding our reserves and our capital improvement budgets so that when it comes time to replace those items or building parts or whatever it is, that the money's already there and we don't spike budgets going these year-to-year things. So that's just maybe another approach.
We also have, shall we say, an elephant in the room in terms of taxes. You folks have copies of the Commissioner of Taxes released on the 2024 educational tax rate letter, and it's not for your benefit, but it's for folks who perhaps are not aware of this. I refer to the bottom paragraph, just a portion of it. The CLA is expected to go down in many communities, which is the common level of appraisal, which means actual tax rates in those towns could be much higher than the forecasted statewide rate. As a result, average property tax bills are projected to increase by 3.7%, even if the full surplus was used to reduce property tax rates in FY24. And the governor has recommended that the full amount be utilized. Now, we also received recently a letter from the tax department indicating that our common level of appraisal, which was at approximately 91%, is now down to 80%, which means it places a higher burden on local taxes. So that's there too. I understand that we're not the school board, but it does, and it will affect our property taxes that our citizens are going to have to pay. I, for one, am in agreement with Joe and anyone else who feels that this is excessive. And we have a lot of property taxpayers who are having difficulty paying their property taxes now with inflation and increases in food prices, gasoline, fuel oil, and so on. So I think we have to do our level best to do what we can to keep taxes down to something that our folks can afford. Now, I believe, Mike, you indicated that the increase in the Fairhaven budget was 3.9?
3.9.
Is it 3.9? And the increase in the Rutland City budget is 2.4. if we were to even do what has been discussed, we're still at 11%. That's going to make a considerable impact on the ability of many of our taxpayers to support this. You raising your hand, Mike? You go ahead.
Well, I mean, I can't go sit in the audience right now. I could, I guess, as a taxpayer, but over the past 3 years, just you want to give history. So over the past 3 years, if you look back in these budgets, I mean, the budget was only at $10,000 over the last close of last fiscal year. It was up 10,000 something dollars over the previous year. How did we get there? We cut a lot. That's what happened. And to try to offset education taxes, the education component, by cutting municipal services seems unwise to me. So I'm not saying we don't figure out a way to try to get this down, but I don't think you can offset what happens in education by reducing the operating budget of the town, because we all know that we're running on approximately 20% of what we pay in taxes goes to running the town.
I don't disagree with that.
So
I'm just bringing it to the attention that that is a factor, because when people get their tax bill, they pay the bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
And many folks probably don't even bother to go through the different parts of it, but to just pay what's there, and that's what they owe. So it is a factor, and I'm not saying that we subsidize or doing something like that, but it's something that is out there and should be given consideration.
Jim, can I ask Mike a question?
Sure.
I think he might have just answered it, but why is it, Mike, that Fairhaven can be at 3% or 4% and Mountain City can be at 2.4%, but we're at 11%? Did they, see what I'm asking? How is that possible if they did the same thing as what you're projecting, what you're proposing?
I haven't seen their budgets, Bob, so I don't think I should try to speculate on what they did, but I mean, I looked at the police budget for Rutland City. I did look at that, and they cut $374,000 out of the police budget, which is, $100,000 less than what our whole increase that I proposed, or my draft budget here. So, I mean, they had a $4.6 million police budget, which is more than what the whole town's budget is here. So we're dealing with some different numbers, but I don't know in Fairhaven how they did that, Robert.
Okay. Maybe their last year's budget was up more than $10,000 over the previous year. And, maybe they anticipated that.
Yeah.
Maybe we've held our budget down for too long. We got to make up for it.
It might be a lot of some of each, and I don't know if they used any ARPA funds to offset any costs. I don't really know their approach, Bob.
Okay. It was just a thought going through my head. So
yep.
The other thing I wanted to ask you, and I should have asked you 2 weeks ago, could you quickly come up with, and not right now, but quickly come up with what total is that $486,940? Obviously, the paving is $209,000 of it. Well, you know what I'm asking? What departments make up that increase? I didn't have that day or 2 days to go over this and figure it out myself. So. Well, is that something you could do before the next meeting on this budget?
It is. I could answer it right off the top of my head because I've looked at this thing so much. Fire and highway make up a large percentage, and you got the $84,000 for the former Castleton Village School. Obviously, is a large number as well, and then police department brought up the rear, because if you look at a lot of these departments, a lot of them are either they're less than last year. Like rec was a -3 over last year, so some were less than last year, some were slightly let's say $2,500 or less probably than, greater than they were last year. So the big ones were police, fire, highway, and that village, the former Castleton Village School.
Okay, so I can just look at those 4 departments, figure it out myself. Okay, all right.
Could I ask or make a suggestion? Mike, is it possible you can get us just a summary sheet with each department? Increase, decrease in dollars and in percent? Something that will kind of crystallize this situation?
You can do anything you want me
That's kind of what I
to.
was asking for, but,
You were? Okay, Bob.
yeah, kind of, yeah, I just didn't word it right, obviously.
Summary sheet by department,
Yeah,
showing increases or decreases.
yeah. Increase and decrease money in by department. Joe?
So, I mean, it seems obvious that we want to ask Mike for a new version of this proposed budget. And I think for him to be able to do that, he needs some direction from the board. And I have 4 questions here that I think might be worth addressing and answering to provide Mike that guidance. One is, what do we think of using reserve funds to shrink the gap in the increase? The second is, do we want to pull CVS expenses? And I would suggest they should include the $700 or $800 that would make the building usable in the foreseeable future. Do we want to pull that out and treat that as a separate article? The third question is, do we want Mike to comb through the budget to look for appropriate expenditures of ARPA funds? And the fourth is, what is the bottom line percentage increase that we're comfortable with?
Sounds like 4 good questions to
Can I ask
me.
Joe a question?
Sure.
When you said reserve accounts, you're talking specifically carryover? In your first question?
I think so. I'm not that familiar with the
I just want to make sure we
terminology.
have our terminology right, that's all.
Yeah.
Because there is a difference
Yeah.
between reserve accounts and
What
carryover.
were you speaking about, Mike, when you began to talk about
I was referring to highway carryover.
carryover? So that was what I was talking about without using the proper term.
Can I make a
Sure.
couple comments here?
Sure.
I didn't do a detailed analysis of this budget with all the different, and write down what each increase was, but a couple things that jumped out at me when I was going through it was the increase in the police department budget is $71,000, which is 13%, but 65,000 of that is payroll, wages and benefits. There's a similar number in highway. Another $50,000 is the increase in the fire department, which the lion's share of that is an increase in the reserve account contribution, which, as much as it doesn't taste good, I have to say is probably the right thing to do. So I can go on, but, we really, if you have not gone through this line by line, I suggest you do, to see just specifically where the increases are.
Mr. Chairman, I started that by department, showing how much the increase was overall and how much of that are things that we can't affect unless you want to lay off people, because CBAs, the collective bargaining agreements that are in place, we have to honor those. So those are things that are kind of untouchable. And then we know what the healthcare rate was. It was 12.75% increase in the healthcare this year. And then the other, when there's wages increases, FICA increases, and there was some increases to the dental and vision. So the majority of these bigger budgets, like highway and police, come down to wages and benefits.
Didn't we go through this a couple years ago, Mike, and discover that about a third of this budget is related to employee expenses?
Mike, can I ask you a question? You mentioned the healthcare benefits and so on, 12.5% increase. Who's our carrier?
Through Blue Cross Blue Shield of Vermont.
Is it possible we could consider another carrier such as Blue Cross Advantage, which advertises lower premiums and greater benefits.
I think it's something that we could certainly look at and look at collective bargaining with it. Because if it's in a CBA, I'd have to do some research to figure out, can the town change that without it being bargained?
I think just my own opinion, I think we can as long as we don't decrease benefits.
I know.
We might be able to possibly,
I don't think they're
might be able to
We've done
possibly
that
increase.
before.
Yeah.
Because it was a better benefit package, like you said, it was a better benefit package for less money, so it was a win-win for
Yeah.
both the employees and the.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying. Probably no one's gonna argue if it benefits both sides.
Okay,
That was Heath Goyette, Allison.
Jim, I got one question for Joe.
sure, Bob.
Can you repeat number 3? You kind of cut out on me. I didn't hear what he said about number 3.
I'm not sure I addressed these in the issue that they're listed on my page, but I'll quickly talk about 4 of them. The first is whether we want to endorse the use of carryover funds. What bottom line percentage increase we are comfortable with taking to the voters, whether CVS should be pulled out as a separate article, and whether we want Mike to comb through the budget to find appropriate expenditures out of the ARPA money.
Okay. It was obviously the CBS separate article, which I'm in favor of. I'm good.
Okay, let me ask a question. Is there anyone on the board who is not in favor of having the CVS a separate budget item?
I don't really understand, I think.
Okay, it would mean...
It's separate, it's still...
Separate. It's a line item, separate.
But
Example,
It's really not lowering the budget if it passes.
no.
It's-
What it costs to operate is what it costs to operate.
It's just giving
The voters the opportunity.
voters the opportunity to say, get rid of it, we don't want it, or we're willing to pay the
That's pretty much it.
80,000.
That's pretty much it, yes.
Okay,
Yeah, it won't change the amount of revenue that has to be raised.
Right,
it's just moving it around.
right.
Okay.
Anything else on this part? Now, yes, Heath?
I just question.
Sure.
I've heard, during this town meetings, I've heard you say not included in the budget, and so this would be one of those, like the Rutland Mental Health, or the hearing, it would be a line item like that on the budget.
A separate line item that the voters would vote on.
Okay.
I don't think we should use the term not included in the budget, though.
No,
It should
no.
be, Because,
Well,
well, I see where your point, Heath.
but isn't that what you say with them things that they,
That's correct. Joe?
I think if we are going to move ahead with the idea of treating the CVS expenses as a separate item, I think we have to at least have a conversation about whether we expect any revenue to be generated by CVS. Because some of the group in town that's been most supportive of CVS believes that it has the potential to generate a lot of revenue. I thought their estimates of potential revenue were greatly, much more than I would have predicted they could raise, but I think I think we have to acknowledge the fact that they believe they can put together a plan to generate revenue.
As long as the expectations are realistic.
I will agree with Joe that when I read their proposal plan, whatever you want, whatever the right term is, I thought it was optimistic.
Really optimistic.
Yeah, I can go with really optimistic, by probably a factor of 4 or 5.
And presumably, now that, we've gotten Bo hired, she might be in a position to sort of review that plan and come back to us with what she thinks is a more realistic projection of revenue.
Okay.
Is the people that put this together in the first place, can we approach them to ask them to revise their
I
proposal?
believe we already did that.
I think we did at our last meeting.
I think we already did that.
But have we heard anything from them?
I have
No.
Do we know if the same people are still involved?
I believe they are.
I don't know, I guess, Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure if the word involved would I could say that with any honesty. I know a couple people, but all the people that were originally involved, I can't know if they're all still involved, but I'll reach out to the rec commissioner and see if I can get this energized to see where they're at and let them know that there's an interest in getting something that's been reviewed again by them and that maybe is a little bit more conservative.
My fear of the people that came out in favor of, you know, we have to keep the school and whatever, now that it's kind of, yeah, I guess we're going to be keeping it, kind of looks that way, it seems like they're not all hep to do anything anymore. It's like they were going from the heart, not from the head. And I'm just hoping that these people, whoever they are, will continue and try to bring this thing together to work. And I don't think Bo can do it by herself. I think she's going to need help of the people that were involved in No Castleton. I'm excited that we've got someone that seems to be really hepped and really want to go, but she's one person and somebody's got to help her, in my mind.
I know that Bo's meeting with Martha, I think tomorrow, Thursday, tomorrow, to go over their budget, but I'm not sure. I'll find out about if she's been read into the original proposal that they put forth to the ad hoc committee about what they thought they could generate for revenue.
It's gonna take some effort and some energy, and I'm still waiting to see that.
And that's how I feel.
I don't know, Jim, this is Nancy, Mark. If I'm out of order, I have a question, and I won't ask it if I'm out of order.
You go ahead, Nancy.
Okay, thank you. Well, I was just wondering, listening to all of you, that I wondered if it would really provide more transparency to the question if this was not just a line item in the budget, but a separate warning as part of the budget, you know, that would be voted on at the time of the budget, so people could really see what the figures are. I know often when you come to the bottom of the ballot, you know, you've done a lot of voting and it might not get the same attention. That's just a suggestion and a thought.
Okay. That's probably because we're one of the few towns or cities left in the state of Vermont which votes on every item rather than a lump sum.
Right.
We're in the numbers of 50s, and I can understand how people would be weary as they as they get towards the end of it.
Yes. Just, okay. Thank you for
You're
listening.
welcome. You're welcome. To Joel's...
Mr. Chairman,
Bob?
this needs to be talked about. We got a little off course here. We're supposed to be on the budget here, and we're talking about Castleton Village School and all that. It needs to be talked about, but not while we're talking about the budget.
But it's included in the budget. It presently is included in the budget.
You're going off and talking about meeting with the rec department and doing this and voting to do that.
Yeah, okay.
I just think you're going way off course here.
Okay. Thanks, Bob. Does any board members wish to venture a number that Joe asked for as to a bottom line increase? If we said that 11% if we said 11% is not acceptable, what is?
5.
That's about
I was
like,
gonna say 5 too, but I don't know if that's realistic, but I was gonna say 5. Let's shoot for it.
Well, let's let Mike do his analysis, and then we'll have to, I mean, we don't have a lot of time, though.
I agree. I agree Mike has to sharpen the pencil or whatever.
The other thing that we need to think about, and I don't know if this is appropriate, but what does increase of $580-some thousand really mean when you pay your tax bill? Have we,
10 cents on the tax rate?
I worked on that today, and I don't have a firm answer on it. I called around other places, other towns, and it
well,
was at 4:30, so nobody answered the
yeah,
phone.
I think
What's our
it's
tax
roughly
rate
around 10
right now?
cents. You agree with that, Jim?
Just the municipal tax rate, or
Yeah,
the
the
combined?
municipal tax rate.
Go ahead.
Municipal.
You
Do I agree
that?
with what, Dick?
The-
Or 8.
The $486,000 increase is about 10 cents.
Yeah.
Okay, so what does that mean for, we don't know what the average mean home is in Castleton at this point. A couple of years ago, it was 150,000.
Well, it's a long way above that.
So is it 200 now?
Keep going.
No, do we know?
I don't, but I think it's above that, yes. That's why you've heard me make the comment, which I believe you politely disagreed with, that Castleton has always been known for high spending and high taxes. And I'm not saying we shouldn't provide services, I know that. But I said sometimes you do have to look at things and the impact on our taxpayers, especially during a period of high inflation. Now, Mary Lee, you came up with a number 5, as in percent. Joe, you're nodding your head, 5?
yes.
And you wanted to wait?
No, I'm not opposed to coming up with a better number on the increase, but I think Joe's methodology is a good suggestion on how to get there.
Yeah,
It's just an aim.
it's a goal.
But
It's a goal, yeah.
I just wanted to make sure everyone realizes what this, as presented now, actually means.
Oh, yeah.
And if we can cut that in half, that would be great, but I'm not convinced we can at this point. I mean, I went through it once
So
again.
Dick,
Okay, hold it, just a second, Bob.
You know, you look at the,
Okay.
well, for instance, the police department, there's a $80,000 increase, and 65 of that is payroll. So how are you gonna cut that? You're not.
We let,
Bottom line.
that's something that the manager has as a task.
Yeah, well, how are you gonna cut you either don't hire a cop, or
That's something the manager has to work with. That's his job.
what road, and we have to look at, the highway department, it's a similar situation, so what roads don't get plowed? Those are the hard decisions we may or may not have to make.
We're not going to not plow roads to Dick, come on.
I know that. I'm
Okay.
being theatrical, just
I
like
know
some
you
other
are.
people on this board may do sometimes.
Right, okay. So we had 2 5s and I'll say 4. So,
well, you got 5 for me too, Jim, so you got
got 3
5.
5s and a 4.
Yeah, but I wanna ask Dick a question before we go too far here.
Sure.
If it's 10 cents, Dick, what does that mean on 200,000?
About 20
I own a
bucks
$200,000 property, how much is my taxes going up if we're talking 10 cents,
for a year, 20 bucks.
20 bucks?
Yep.
On a 200,000?
Yep, on a $200,000 property.
If the budget went up to 489,000?
That is correct.
Okay. Okay.
Well, if you take the village school out of there, you're down to around 403 and put it in as a separate item.
But if it's approved, we still have to raise the revenue.
Pardon?
If it's approved, we still have to raise the revenue, so we should look at the entire picture.
Mike,
That's only if the voters voted yes. If the voters vote no, you don't have to. They make the decision, they pay the bills.
Mike, could you give me the municipal tax rate for this year?
The total with local tax agreements is .4895.
And that's
48,
our part of it, has nothing to do with the school.
That's correct.
so it's
It's a local
roughly,
tax and the municipal amount to be raised by taxes.
so if it's 4.489, call it rounded off at 49, and you're increasing it 10 cents? Is that right? Dick?
I'm sorry, stay again, I was daydreaming.
If it's 48 or 49 rounded off, the municipal tax is 49 cents per hundred of assessed valuation, and you increase it by 10 cents, and that's only a $20?
A year per household.
$20 a year per household.
Yeah.
Okay. You agree with that, Mike? I thought you were
And I'm trying to think
figuring
of the
there.
decimal point, if we're off a decimal point, it's $200, not $20, but
I think so.
I'll have to verify that.
I think you might be correct, yes.
Well, if it's 10 cents per thousand, is that correct?
10 cents a hundred.
10 cents a hundred, then I'm off 10, so it's $200. I was wrong, Bob, it's $200, not 20.
Hey, I was gonna say, something doesn't sound right here.
I was wrong, it's $200.
It just went up, $180 for you, Bob.
The mill levy rate, that's what comes down to that. We were talking about it earlier.
That makes quite a difference.
$1,000 is a dollar.
It's significant, I'm sorry about that, I have to apologize.
Yep.
That's all right. I was gonna ask you again about it.
I thought it was per thousand, but it's per hundred?
Yeah. 100, yeah.
My thought was that,
Then that's a decimal point.
Anything else, folks?
So one of the questions that I threw out there was, do we want Mike to use carryover funds to shrink the budget increase? I don't.
I think he should consider it, not necessarily that it will be done, but if it could help in certain cases and not kill us in other places. Like you said, for every good, there's a bad. And we've got to weigh them and see which way we have to go.
Okay.
I want to throw out a comment out there.
Sure.
If we don't use the carryover, we just carry it over and carry it over and carry it over. I don't believe that it's going to get cheaper out there. So if we're a year behind in paving, I think we better consider maybe even leaving the 209 in there and having the carryover of 170 and get ourselves caught up if we really need, if we're really behind a year paving. I don't really know much about it, but if I have my doubts that we're going to be 2 years behind if we don't do something. I don't see that. So
Could you,
I'm in favor. I'm in
okay,
favor of using the carryover.
on the carryover, isn't that the way it works? That if there's a surplus to carry over at the end of the year, it goes to lower the tax rate unless it is encumbered?
not for the highway one.
No, highways, it carries over, I know that, yeah, okay.
That's correct, it reduces the amount of revenue that has to be raised.
Yeah.
So therefore it reduces the tax rate.
Oh, Mike, one other question. Do you have any information on the expected increase in the grand list?
Only what you know.
Pardon?
Only what you know, and that was what our assessor said was $1 million, maybe a little smidgen more, but that's what Mary Jo expects was, maybe it would go up about $1 million, maybe it says, maybe a little more.
Now,
What's the value of our grand list now?
if she says that, do we have any projections as to what that would raise for revenue?
I don't at this point, Jim.
Okay, all right, okay.
Do we have a appraisal due?
For what?
Do we have a complete appraisal due to the whole town?
If that CLA CODs, when it starts getting to 80%, that triggers reappraisals. And we've already got a call from one of the a company that's reappraised Castle in the past, because they salivate when that happens.
I'm sure.
But it might be a couple years before they get to us and through it, but it triggers it.
It's coming, in other words.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so is it possible also to get a ball, and that million will probably increase somewhat in the next few months before April 1. But that's where it is today, that'd be the majority of it. So it might be somewhat more than $1 million. To translate that into what it would produce for revenue, Mike? Is it possible that Mary Jo or someone might give us an estimate of that?
Yeah, I think working with Mary Jo and with Melanie, if we put it into the tax, we can do some hypotheticals in the tax rate summary, and it could give us a kind of a ballpark.
Okay, yeah, that's all, it is a ballpark.
So I'm gonna ask this question again, what's our grand list value now?
$4,940,842 is the municipal grand list as of 7/21/2022.
4 million?
Or, yeah,
That's
that's
taxes.
yeah, that's the tax part, yep. And I don't know what the actual, this form doesn't have the actual grand list on it.
I'm wondering what $1 million represents. Is it 0.1% or 1% or?
Won't know until I talk to Mary Jo on that one, or get the copy of the grand list from Adjourn.
No, I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a small percentage.
That's what I'm thinking. It's probably like 1/10 of 1% or something.
Yeah,
What is?
maybe not even.
The $1 million increase
Oh,
in the
yeah.
grand list.
Okay, anything else for Mike? You want some more things, Mike?
Yes, I just.
You got 'em now?
So 8% you said?
Pardon?
2,
What'd you say, Mike?
2.
Nothing.
Mine is 3.
If not, and it appears that at the January 9th meeting, we folks are definitely going to have to finalize the budget so that we meet the deadlines for the warning and so forth.
What is the deadline?
Pardon?
What is the deadline?
It's
I think Karen said the 20th?
20th of
Before the
January.
next- it
so
was for
on.
the second
They need a little, they
Third
need time
week or so.
to do the numbering, so do the ciphering. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Putting together the warning takes a while.
Anything else on this? If not, move on to the purchase order. No. Approval to purchase a new generator for the wastewater treatment facility. Who'd like to address that?
I'll make a motion. We approve purchase order number 049612 for a new generator for the wastewater treatment facility for $50,700.
I'll second it.
I'll second it for discussion.
Okay. And if approved, that money would come from where, Mike?
The sewer reserve.
Sewer reserve, okay. And why do we need a new generator?
I can answer that.
Does anybody not know what's going on? I guess,
That'd be
for the
fine.
record, I guess.
I just want it out
Absolutely. I
there,
mean,
that's
I can
all.
address that. So you're aware
Dave
that
Fabricius.
during the last storm, the generator went down. We avoided a near catastrophe with being able to, the power coming on at the optimal time before basically waste was released into the river. I looked back at something that Lieutenant Colonel Chris Foraker had done prior to, and the assessment from Milton Cat and a number of other reputable organizations was that the one that we have right now is outdated, very difficult to get parts for, needs a new radiator, and it's well past its prime. As you know, evident from what happened a couple weeks ago. So we've got a Baldor temp there right now out as a backup, which we did use during the storm, the last storm. It does work, but it's also $3,000 a month, I think off the top of my head is what we're paying to rent that thing. We're lucky right now because there is one down in Massachusetts that we can, it would be delivered tomorrow basically if we approve it. And it'll be the end of it. We won't have to worry about this for the foreseeable future.
It's 26 years old. I look back at the date of it. It's 1997. So that was there before the last 20-year upgrades. So it didn't get upgraded in the last 20-year upgrades. And it's burning oil. That's the other thing. It's not just a radiator leak. It's burning oil.
Yeah.
And when they Bob Ward looked at it, they couldn't even tell where it was coming from. So it's internal. It's not like leaking out the ground. It's burning it internally, and they're babysitting that thing every 2 hours to 3 hours, pouring more oil into it so it wouldn't shut down because it has a safety switch. so that the pumps and the aerators and the SBR tanks were continuing to function, and the UV light treatment. So it's just past its prime. It's, if we could tear it apart and have someone look at it and see if it was, the engine rings need to be replaced and all this stuff, but we're still looking at a 27-year-old generator. The generator itself part, not just the engine, is just, it's beat, it's worn.
My recommendation is that we need a new one.
What's the life expectancy of this? This is brand new, and what's the life expectancy?
Well, what's that? I don't know what the life expectancy is off the top of my head. If it's anything like the last thing, I'll be dead and gone hopefully by the time that this thing figures out.
Well, hopefully, my stance on it would be, as we approach 20-year upgrades, we assess the generator before you get to that point, and we make sure that it's part of the 20-year upgrade proposal to the select board from whoever the engineer is at the time, so that we know that we don't get past the 20-year upgrade and 5 years later we're like, oh boy, I wish we would have figured that into the bond. So that's kind of where we're at. It just was an oversight, or nothing was wrong with it back in 20 years ago.
I don't think we really have a choice. If the waste gets into the river, we'll be in a lot, much trouble than paying for this generator. I don't think there's a choice.
Well, there's always choices, I guess, but I don't know if they're.
Are you recommending this, Mike?
Yeah, I've already done that.
Okay.
Yeah.
One more question.
Sure. Dick's got a question.
Just a question for Dave.
Sure.
If we don't pull the trigger on this, what's the lead time on something else and the
You might
price?
see it in a year. Because we were really lucky that this one is down in Massachusetts. I was talking to Jeff. Jeff reached out to other vendors, and they were saying the lead time could be half a year to a year because of just the way the way of the world right now in regards to production and getting things made.
And we'd be paying $3,000.
We'd be paying somewhere between $9,000 and $18,000 in rent over the course of that 6 months to a year.
Okay, we have the motion. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Bob. Go ahead.
That's all right. It's a quick question, and the paperwork probably answers it. Now, this purchase price includes the transportation to get it here and to install it, right?
Roger.
There's not going to be
Yes.
warrant coming through after that, correct?
Roger. The only thing we're going to do is assist with taking the old one away and lifting the new one up. Other than that, they're supplying electricians, doing the hookup, the unhookup of the bell door, taking the bell door away, and we should be good to go.
With a warranty.
Okay, that.
With a warranty, as Mike said.
What are we doing with the old one?
Gonna try to sell it.
Okay.
I could probably use that.
Small, you can probably carry that.
It depends if you want to keep pouring oil in it.
I know. Okay, ready for the vote? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? It's unanimous. Moving on to the warrants for approval.
Make a motion, we approve warrant number 1226R for $650, warrant 1215 for $33,850.50, warrant 1222 for $1,689,294, warrant 1226 for $208,053.41, warrant 1215P for $16,097.76, and warrant 1222P for $16,849.89.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
And a second. Discussion. Seeing none. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Bob, you there?
You got it.
Yeah, I said aye.
Okay. Mike, I don't have the original here.
You don't. Okay.
Can we use this?
Yeah, we'll have to use it.
Okay.
White out copy. Do you make white out anymore? You still make that?
Still do. Remember when they were the little papers where you put paper up there?
I don't mind the one that you can draw with, like you line it out, like, you know, those are pretty good. With the paint, when they paint it on, oh my God.
And we have two other warrants.
I would move that we approve warrant number 1216P for $647.02, and warrant number 1223P for $647.02.
I'll second it.
And a second. Any discussion?
I recuse myself.
You recuse yourself. Dick recuses himself. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Talk to Brent and Dave about it. Okay. Brent, give me a call tomorrow. I want to talk to you about paving, please. Or both of you, one or the other.
We can do that. Anytime work better?
Let's shoot for mid-morning. You have my house number?
I do.
Call that, because that rings when I'm in the shop. I'll be in the shop all day. I need to learn more. I'm gonna make decisions.
We're gonna all have carpal tunnel before we're done.
You missed one, Jim.
I did?
You did.
Oh, boy. Where is it? Right here.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a statement while they're still signing?
Sure.
This item's not on the agenda.
Too late.
We don't have the original, so.
We don't have the original, Joe. Sure.
Thank you. So I do want to publicly thank the Public Works crew, the fire department, police department, and some of our staff for rallying together this past weekend over that storm. Lots of stuff, curveballs were thrown at us between trucks and lakes and trees falling on people, and calls for help from other departments and for fire, working with Green Mountain Power, sewer backups, and again on East Crystal Haven due to a pump station not working. So it virtually was a team effort to help each other through this, and we've identified a lot of good things that we did, and we've also identified some shortcomings that we need to fix. And we had an after-action review today, and some of it's going to take money to solve it, and others just, it's looking at our processes and procedures and improving those. So I just want to publicly thank people, because I don't know if everyone gets to see the effort that goes into that type of operation. So I want to say thanks, and some of them are in the room today. So.
You stole my thunder. I was going to ask for a motion on that,
Oh, sorry.
but that's okay. I'm sure the board concurs and agrees with all the
Absolutely.
hard work that was done
Yeah.
over the weekend. Thank you all. We greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, gentlemen.
8%?
I give that to
And all your staff, too.
Any other select board comments and/or concerns?
No.
No.
I've got one, just.
Okay, Bob,
Everybody else is done.
go ahead. Oh, you got anything, Dick? Mary Lee? No? Okay, Bob, go ahead.
I just was wondering if somebody could shed some light on who proposed, or where did the draft come from on this Castleton or Community Village Square, home of the Castleton Hubbardton Recreation Center? There's no name attached to it, so where did it come from?
I believe it came from the Recreation Commission, is that correct?
That came from that committee of,
Was it the ad hoc committee they gave you?
The ad hoc committee?
well,
They gave
It was presented to us. Martha and Mary were, I think, the two.
Okay, all right,
It has since been reformatted, so I didn't recognize it at first.
okay. Did I answer it for you, Bob?
Martha and Mary Grove, is that where it came from? Is that what you guys said?
Yes.
Yes, and they had, a number of other people who seem to have contributed to it as well. But I think they were, they provided the leadership on the development of that.
Okay,
Okay, not for tonight, but we need to discuss this as a board, but not tonight.
thanks, Bob.
Okay.
Okay, any other business for the board? If not, is there a motion? Joe?
Could we have a brief executive session on personnel?
Sure.
I'd move that we go into executive session to discuss personnel with the board and the manager.
Is there a second?
second.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye.